Hello community, my name's Paul Mills from Raptoreum Core, and here we have Hunter Schultz, who is the head of production for Raptoreum and many other roles as well. We are back for another episode of Raptor ChainReaction, and today's episode is called The Next Big Thing. That right, Hunter?
That is correct, Mr. Paul. Yeah, it's about time that we started talking about the future in maybe a different way. We've come a long way, and there are a lot of new people that will be joining the community based on some future events that are happening shortly. And I think it's a good time to talk about what are some of the possibilities, what we're doing, and a little bit about where we've been, but now it's becoming very important as we transition from the realm of this is what we're planning on happening to it's happening. It's assets are done, futures are done. So I think it's a good idea to talk about probably starting with the chain and what's happening with the chain itself. So why don't you give a little color commentary, if you will, on where we're at with the chain, and we'll go from there.
The chain was initially released in February 2021. We had a testnet which was almost 3 years. We originally was working on a Raven code base. Some of our developers were interested on bettering the Raven code base in the way it worked and fixing some of the issues. But due to the amount of issues that they actually had seen during the time on the Raven code base, they decided to scrap that entirely and build on a early Dash code base. So we created the chain, and we had our lead developer tree build a brand new algorithm called Ghost Rider. And the reason why we built Ghost Rider is to avoid heavy centralization in hash rate. So we wanted to build the chain so that anybody with a CPU could mine some coins in the comfort of their own home on like the gaming PC or whatever. And that's where Ghost Rider shines. It cycles randomly algorithms to avoid ASIC or FPGA development, which would, centralize the hash rate. So the chain was released in February 2021. I think it was the 26th of February, actually. And the chain is actually backed by smart nodes and the mining side of it. So what smart nodes are is literally servers all around the world which run a copy of the blockchain. And the key thing with these servers or smart nodes is the fact that they run something called chain locks. And what that does is every single block that happens on the network, these servers or smart nodes will check that block and make sure it matches the information across the network, meaning that it stops anyone from double spending or 51% attacking the network due to the chain locks that are in place. Then we developed shortly after something called futures. We developed futures to give the chain brand new use cases. And let's bear in mind that when we developed futures, this was unseen anywhere else. This is a world's first, built on a blockchain on the protocol level, meaning the blockchain level. And futures is the ability to be able to send a transaction to somebody else or a company or whatever and have it unlock at a block height or a timestamp. So it won't go there immediately. It will only unlock based on either of those rules, which can help give additional use cases to the transactions on the network. So that was a successful implementation initially. The next thing that we have released, which is fairly recent now, is the assets layer. Now, these assets are very special because unlike other chains, our assets operate on the blockchain itself, and they are backed by the encryption of the chain. So unlike Ethereum or EVM chains, where they require a risky smart contract, bearing in mind these smart contracts could be coded by literally anyone in a malicious manner to steal your coins in future, or tokens, sorry. But on Raptoreum, it is directly coded on the protocol layer, and this means that there are no risky smart contracts that can steal your tokens or your currencies that you create on the network. And this gives the Raptoreum network a lot more security to those people wishing to build and tokenize their business operations or their infrastructure or their assets, anything like that. So this is why we are excited about the assets layer.
I have a quick. Can I just interrupt you? There's something that occurred to me that we have not talked about,
Okay.
and it's related to assets and EVM assets, and that is the upstream situation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So with EVM-based chains, they are they're running on something called Solidity to code their smart contracts. And Solidity is a language that's still in beta, and that means that it's not a final language. It's still being developed and improved, and all the time we are seeing exploits in Solidity that allow bad actors to do malicious things to the user's assets. And Solidity is then patched, and then people are using a new version of Solidity if they wish to do so to issue tokens and things like that. But if the smart contracts that are coded or applied to an older version of Solidity, running, big operations on the blockchain of EVM chains, then this can mean that the older contracts are still exposed to some of these vulnerabilities that have since been patched. And depending on how the tokens were created, this could mean that the patch is not able to be updated on the contract for that token, leaving many users vulnerable. So this is a major issue at the moment on EVM chains regarding some big companies or government bodies that are or have already integrated into an EVM-based setting without actually thinking this through. They're going to run into problems further on down the line.
Yeah, what happens over there may impact another company, completely different company. So the bad news travels upstream real quick, and then downstream. So the next, and I should ask, or should add, that since assets came out in September 24, just a few short months ago, everything before that you ought to be looking at. If you're using smart contracts and assets on a blockchain and you're concerned about how secure they are, you better be looking at it. Simple as that. And I did ask the question from our co-founder, David Owen Morris, how easy is it to transfer from those assets to Raptoreum? It's basically creating a database and then turning them over.
Mm-hmm.
That's, now, for him, that's easy. But the point is, it can be done. It can be handled. And if anyone does want to inquire about that, just send a note to info@raptorium.com. So the next big thing coming is something called transaction decoupling, which is a nice technical term which most people have no idea what it is, but we're going to explain it to you and why it's important. And that is on the roadmap for 2025, to be clear. I think it's important that people understand how important transaction decoupling is for the overall picture and what's coming after that, and why you have to have transaction decoupling for smart contracts. So, Paul, over
Okay,
to you.
so if we look at a chain such as Ethereum, when a lot of transactions are sent through the Ethereum network, it raises something called the gas fee. This is like the transaction fee to push a transaction through the Ethereum network quickly. Now, Ethereum can only process so many transactions at once, and the mempool for Ethereum gets filled up with transactions depending on how busy the network is, and this means that people are fighting for the opportunity to push their transaction through the network first before everyone else, because they want that transaction process quickly, because most people want to get their job done on a blockchain quickly. They don't like waiting around. So they're willing to pay more money to push that transaction through, leaving the people who don't have the money to push the transaction through having to wait a long time, which is completely stupid because it favors the rich and shunts the poor to the side. We strive as a blockchain at Raptoreum to have extremely cheap transactions, probably some of the cheapest in the whole blockchain space. And currently our transactions are, like fractions of a cent. It's nothing. But if we were to keep our chain exactly like it is, it would get to a point where our mempool would be full and where our fees would start to rise slightly, which we do not want. So the way we are solving this is by developing something called transaction decoupling. And what that does is it allows transactions to separate from the main chain onto side chains. And these side chains notarize on the main chain per block. And by doing this, it creates additional pipes that run along the chain. I'm saying pipes, but it's probably the best way I could put it. In order for these transactions to travel across. And this applies to any transaction on the chain, including asset transactions or smart node transactions, minting transactions, anything like that, allowing the scalability that we require in order to compete with the top chains in the space, but without raising the fees in order to get the process done. So that's what transaction decoupling is, and that's why it's cool.
And that leads us to, and you have to have that in order to have, you need to have transaction decoupling in place in order for smart contracts to work, just to work.
Well, that's right, because transaction decoupling changes the way the core blockchain actually works and, issues transactions. And this has to be done first before our smart contract layer, because smart contracts are also going to be talking to that chain, depending on how it has been built previously to that development. So when the smart contracts talk to the chain, we need it to be familiar with the structure of what it is, and that obviously leads us to smart contracts as well. We've seen in the space for a very long time now that people don't, or developers don't really put much effort in. They would rather fork a blockchain with assets and do the same as everyone else, like BSC, like Polygon. They're just basically copying Ethereum and changing a few parameters, which is just not, it's not innovating. And we thought, well, how can we make this better? How can we bring development to the majority of developers in the world, rather than just the few that can code on Solidity? Because the majority of developers that say they are blockchain developers, most of the time, all they know is how to load up a template for a smart contract to get something done. They don't even understand how the template works, because they're not fluent in Solidity, which most aren't. So we thought, well, how can we bring the development of automation and smart contracts to the wider world and to the wider world of business? And we decided to focus on building smart contracts in the distributed open source application umbrella of Apache Spark. And this covers languages such as Java, Python, and Scala. And this means that Apache Spark is the backbone of the internet. Without Apache Spark, you wouldn't have a lot of the way the internet works, such as Twitter or X. And many businesses around the world are already familiar and also coded in those languages. And right now, a lot of these businesses, companies, are scratching their heads on how they can integrate into a blockchain environment without changing their current operations too much. So that's why we are focusing on this development angle, to bring familiarity to the developers and to the businesses, so they can meet blockchain a lot sooner than a lot sooner, and in a way that they are more familiar with compared to the other blockchains out there.
I think you touched on something there, that companies are going to be, they're struggling right now to go integrate their operations into blockchain and bringing blockchain into their business. And it's yet one more reason why Raptoreum is that, a Swiss utility knife of blockchain. I think that might be a good analogy. There's something else that we should talk about for those who are new, and even some of the old hands that have been around a while. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. I mean, I know what I'm doing behind the scenes. And there are specific reasons why they stay behind the scenes, because we don't want to tip our hand to others. We release it when it's appropriate. So, we ask your indulgence to maintain that confidentiality. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, though, and we never stop. And maybe you can address some of the things that you're seeing, and maybe some of the things that we've been working on from the marketing perspective.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing at the moment behind the scenes is we have Tree, who is our lead developer, who is working on bringing assets to our Discord wallet. The wallet is called Stacy, and any person that joins our Discord will automatically get a Stacy wallet generated for them, so you can transact in Raptoreum right in the community, and it helps with distributing or airdropping coins to community members for competitions and games that we have in the Discord. This wallet is also coming to Telegram as well, and that's under development. And also a major thing that we're really looking forward to is having assets on that community wallet as well, so people can transact assets inside their communities, which is game changing compared to anything else that you see out there. One of the cool things about that is you have full ownership of your private keys. It's not like a central database or anything like that that holds your assets. You are in charge of your own assets. So that is something cool that I'm seeing developed. Another cool thing is there are a few marketplaces being developed at the moment by community members. That's on our ecosystem growth server, and it's really nice to see. Another thing that I could talk about is we recently went to the biggest cryptocurrency conference in the world, which was Token 2049 in Singapore, and we met some people there, and we've developed a good relationship with, and we have signed contracts now, and you're going to see some big things happen with the project moving forward, which we're really excited about. We're really working hard on structuring the way that we operate, so we've got a better grasp on all the moving parts at any one point in time for the whole project. And this helps us out, it helps our partners out, and it helps us make decisions on which stepping stones to tread on as we move forward. What else did you want to talk about?
Well, the thing that blew us away probably, 2-3 weeks ago was Instasend.
Oh, yeah.
And how fast, how blisteringly fast the Raptoreum network has become.
So
now that Instasend is here.
Instasend is something that we inherited from our initial forking of Dash years ago. Obviously, our blockchain now is very, very much different than our original code iterations when we released mainnet. It's a totally different chain now. I mean, we've got dual layer assets. Dash doesn't have that. But one thing that we kept that we weren't able to initially use was Instasend. And as we've upgraded our code base significantly with our assets layer, we can now use Instasend. And what this means is if you were to send someone a transaction to a wallet that was compatible with Instasend, that would mean that instantly that transaction would be there. But not only that, it's spendable. And we did a little demonstration with this when myself and Mancini demonstrated the Talon wallet, which we've also been working on separately to the Raptoreum project, where a transaction was sent there, and it was, I mean, in a blink of an eye, it was spendable, and you could send it out to anyone from that point onwards. So that is cool. And the thing that makes it even cooler is that it just doesn't just apply to transactions in Raptoreum coins, but it also applies to the assets as well. So sending, receiving of assets, the creation of assets, and all this sort of thing. This means that in a DeFi environment, when Talon Wallet is released, we are able to perform really cool things with instant gratification, possibly faster than most of the other blockchains out there. So we're really excited about that, and this is game changing, because there is not another UTXO chain out there that can do this. When I'm saying UTXO, I'm actually talking about Bitcoin based, because we are a Bitcoin based chain. So we are super fast in terms of a Bitcoin based chain that can do UTXO DeFi. And this is the point, and this is why we're here, and this is why we're pushing forward on building what we're building, because we're doing something that hasn't been done before, something that the space is missing. And with all of that, we bring a lot of security with it, which again, the space is crying out for.
So in terms of Instasend, gaming comes to mind, but are there, aside from gaming, you can talk about gaming, what other areas will Instasend have an impact?
Well, we can talk about gaming, but we're not going to talk about gaming. What we can talk about is just imagine you are a merchant or a shop or whatever, and you're accepting cryptocurrency. And you've got a machine next to you, Visa, MasterCard, and then you've got another machine next to you, which is either a mobile phone or a PC. And that's for cryptocurrency. And on that machine, you've got a list of cryptocurrencies that you're going to accept. And all of those cryptocurrencies, apart from a couple, are very slow at accepting a payment. So you're going to look through these cryptocurrencies and you're going to think, well, what's the fastest here? Because I just want to get paid. I don't want the customer waiting in the store just to pay because he's probably just going to give up. So do you have any Raptoreum? Well, yes, I do. Well, we accept Raptoreum. So cashier would show the barcode. Customer would send the Raptoreum to the barcode using their phone. And bam, it's there instantly. And shopkeeper's happy. He's got his payment. Customer's happy. They've got their products. And at that point in time, it's faster than Visa, MasterCard. It costs less, fractions of a cent, and everyone's happy. So this is why it matters, because in an environment like that, people need things to happen quickly, especially when there's a queue, especially when fees are involved. So this is why Instasend's important. Gaming. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I suppose we can talk about it. Okay. So if I was to send, if me and Hunter were playing, I don't know, what are we playing, Hunter?
I have no idea.
We're playing, we're playing Frogger, right? You know that game where you cross the road and there's cars there, right? And we can dress Frogger up with some golden boots, but Hunter, he does not have the golden boots, but I've got 2 pairs of golden boots, and I,
Sure.
yeah, and you know, there's a bit of a time. We need to get these golden boots to Hunter quickly because double points ends in about 5 minutes, and he needs to cross the road, don't you, Hunter?
Absolutely.
He's dying to cross this road.
Dying.
And if he didn't have these golden boots, the cars would literally run him over. These golden boots give him powers like no other frog in the world. So Hunter messages me and says, send me some golden boots, Binary. Okay, Hunter, send me some RTM and I'll send you some golden boots. So he sends me some RTM, which I've got on my phone instantly. And I'll send him some golden boots. The golden boots asset to his Raptoreum gaming wallet. Bam, he's got it instantly. The game reads that wallet instantly, puts the golden boots on his magical frog, and now Hunter can cross the road.
I'm so happy. My life is complete, but the point's well taken.
But yeah, there's no waiting around with things like that, and this is really important because gamers don't like to wait around. People don't want to wait around in shops. People working in business, time is money. People don't want to wait around, especially these days. Instant gratification is where it's at, and that's what we're aiming for as a project. But I think as we look forward, there's a lot of banking systems and governments and things like this all around the world that are dipping their toes into blockchain and seeing what the use cases are and seeing how it can benefit their wider operations, be it a good way or be it a bad way. So yeah, we're going to see more of this moving forward, definitely. And
we should also mention that we're doing a series of blog posts right now, and we'll put the address up on the screen and in the description. We're currently kind of focused on the music industry because we have some upcoming things going on there, and IP and things of that nature. So definitely check that out. And I think it's important for people to understand there's so much this can do. It's staggering when I've looked at the possibilities. It's just unreal.
it's just the next big thing, right?
That's exactly it. And there you are. Hey.
Big thank you to you all for tuning in for this week's episode of Raptor Chain Reaction, the next big thing. It has been an absolute pleasure. I have been Paul Mills. He has been
Hunter Schultz.
He's been Hunter Schultz. And we are back next week for another Raptor Chain Reaction episode. Please give this video a like at the bottom and click the subscribe button to be kept up to date with any more Raptor Chain Reaction videos, Raptoreum guides, CryptoSmith videos, Raptoreum weeklies, and all that sort of good stuff. And also, we are on X. You can follow us at Raptoreum. We're on Instagram. We're also on Threads at the same username. You can also follow us on TikTok. That's at Official Raptoreum. And I think that's about it, isn't it, Hunter?
You got it.
Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you again.
Thank you.